Artist Wayne Dowsent. This is the 10th portrait in my ANZAC series. It features 98-year-old George Curly Taylor, and it's called The Little Wonder. It's a nickname he got back in his old shearing days, and it applies today just like it did back then, because at 98 years old, the man still skydives. And I've painted Curly doing what he loves most, because like he says,
I walked out of home when I was 12 years old, and here I am 90 odd, and I'm still walking all over the place.
Here he is, the little wonder, Mr. George Curly Taylor.
I joined the Air Force, that's right. And then my brother Sam joined the Army, rode a push bike delivering messages and so forth, but then became a drummer in a musical tour there that went overseas to entertain the troops. I had two sisters. The eldest one was a tailoress in private life, and finally became a cook. Now the other one, she became an assistant to a nurse. But the whole five of us, and I had another brother who went to overseas with the army, and I never saw any of them much, see, during the war, because I was in the Air Force away, see. But I did run into them occasionally this way, that now that brother of mine that was in the musical thing, yeah, well, of course I ran into him quite a few times because they were entertaining all the different organisations, you know, in the Army and the Air Force, all that sort of thing, see. The other brother that went over, I never met him till he came home, and he was no sooner home when he was killed in an accident, see. The two girls were the same. I didn't see much of them during the war. I did my rookie training, was just over into Victoria. That's where we done our original training, and then we come back to New South Wales. And I went to, with others, it wasn't on my own. We were in Townsville, just rookie enlisted, and they broke us up in the night and they took us to New Guinea. We went on board ships, see, and that ship had made a lot of passengers, taking soldiers and spice, you know. And we went on it just after lunch, and there's bunks all around the inside of the ship, see, and there's tables in the middle, and the tables went if the ships, you know, a ship doesn't stay still when it's at the wharf, and then it just rocks in and out, you know. And this table went whoa, 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 and the boats went the same way. And we went on about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was seasick with a heap of others, but by the time they came to give us our top first meal, none of us, well, most of us were too sick to eat it. And we were in that ship all night. The next day then we sailed for Bougainville Island. See. I never got off my ass. I laid in that ship 14 days or something we were getting there, and I never moved. Seasick, oh God. I was lucky I didn't join the Navy. I went and joined the Air Force instead. Now we're all rookies in brand new uniform, and when we got there, you know, we're trying to keep our shoes dry, but the mud's that bloody deep. But we were there for hours, and everybody walked past and said, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" We had no clue, we had no paperwork, we had no nothing. But finally, somebody woke up to us and come and said, "Well, you shouldn't be here." Well, I said, "The facts of the matter," and I was the spokesman, naturally, you know, yeah, it had to be me. Well, I said, "We're here because we were told to come here, and we're starving." Anyhow, so we got us a feed, yeah. But they told us to camp if the alarms went off for the bombers coming over. We had these pits to jump into, see, to hide. Well, they come over, but we jumped into the wrong pits. There were 6 of us, or something like that. We're up to here in mud, see, that big dead Japanese. And yeah, when the bloke found us out in the early morning, you know, we were sick and goodness knows what. It took a few days to sort us out, you know. Well, then I went from there. We all split up again, and I then went to Port Moresby. And now I'm talking about myself, but there was plenty of others surrounding me, so. You'd have dysentery, then you'd be running to the toilet and you'd have a spare. At the same time you'd be heaving your bloody guts up. This was all happening. And in the finish you're out of your head, you know. And it takes days and days and days before you get back. Now, a lot of this was caused by our own stupidity because we were warned not to drink water out of the taps. But it was the best water you could get to drink, so you drank it and you nearly killed yourself, see. But that went on all the time. That was at Port Moresby. Now, I finished, and that was after that I was sent out to another place where the Yanks built a new strip and all that, and I got invoked into that. I had qualifications. It was something to do with the bloody Yanks. See? I could get along with the Yanks. See? They went up there and I was with them for a few weeks. And then they shifted me back. They built a new airstrip for the new big planes the Yanks were bringing, all huge planes, see? Well, I finished up out there with an officer and 4 blokes under me to do all the messages and all sort of things. But that was for Australia, see? But alongside it was the big Yanks. And they wrote me in, see, because they heard of me when I was in Port Moresby. See? So then I was, LAC, bossing the whole bloody commuter. Nobody ever patted me on the back, I know. And other high-ranking officers used to ring up and say, I'm going on duty, or I'm doing this and doing this, could you put me on a plane so-and-so, see? Well, if they were nice, I would, but then they have fellas ringing me up. 20 or 30, 40, 50 miles further away, you see. But they ring me up and say, look, there's a bloke coming in, he'll be in a couple of... He's the biggest bastard officer we've ever seen, so put him on a slow boat to China. And this bloke did turn up, you know, Sergeant Major someone, you know, and he didn't ask for nothing, he demanded this, he demanded it, and I said, I've got you booked it right through now, so you'll be here at 8 o'clock in the morning. When he came on, I put him on the slow boat to China. It took him a fortnight to get to Townsville. I never heard any more of him. But that's the way it was. I was in charge. The officers came in and smiled and laughed because they might want to go home, see. Well, they wanted to fly home, not wait for a bloody ship. So they'd hand me a bottle of Franc or a bottle of bloody rum or something like that. And I'd give that to somebody else to blackmail them to do something for me. That's how it was. I didn't drink or anything, see. But it used to make me laugh. And at the end of the day, at night, see, I had to write all this down, everything I did, you see. And you still want me to talk? Yeah. So this went on for a while, see. And I keep going to come back to you, see. The bloke that should have been in that job, I don't know what happened, but they're trained clerks, all that. I'm an ex-shearer. They were trying to handle all this. See. But anyhow, Head Serang came from further north because of what was going on with me. I was doing too much too quick, he said, and they couldn't keep the paperwork up. and he came out and he walked in. Now look, he said, so-and-so, so-and-so, so. I was reported it to you, and now he's disappeared. Oh no, he's not disappeared. Well, where is he? I said, I'll let you know. I'll go and take my books out, see? And he said, so-and-so, and he said, give us a look at that book. How can you read that? I said, it's my writing. It's just, you know, I could get stuck into all them bloody high-ranking officers and they dared do anything with me because they tapped me on a slow boat to China if they couldn't kill.
So, Curly, were you ever involved in loading the planes with the bombs and things like that?
I didn't do that, I just ordered other people to do it.
Right.
Yeah, that was a lot of it, yeah.
And were you involved in a lot of situations where the Japanese came over and bombed? Were you around during that?
We were there.
Yeah?
In the biggest hole we could find, the one furthest away.
And how often?
Listen, excuse my language, the shit's flying out of your asshole. Jesus Christ, I tell you what, it's not a very happy thing to dive into a bloody trench that somebody's already filled up with a lot of rubbish and stuff, and they're coming over because they're pretty good at bombing.
And was that a daily, did that happen every day?
At a period in time, it had happened 3 or 4 days in a row. Mm. Oh yeah, but you get used to it after a while. I mean, what can you do? Just hide in a bloody hole, see? Mm. Then I got malaria and so forth, and they put me into a convalescent home, which is on the Kokoda Trail. We went up 10 miles, see? And lo and behold, no sooner got in there, and the ass did this, they fitted 2 telephones to me because while I was in there sick with malaria, I still had to do my work. This is gospel truth. And we had a bloke there who was a brilliant sketcher of people. And I have a copy of that, of where he sketched me. And you've got to remember at this part of the time that we weren't healthy people. The sketches are wonderful because we were just skin and bone, see? So when I got over all that, then I come back to Australia, and I thought, I called my wife down and I was set for life. The next thing, I was in hospital with malaria. And this woman put her head round the door, L.A.C. Taylor, I said, that's me. She said, you're going over? So I said, just got home. But I had to go again. Then when the war was over, I was a handy man, a smart man, but I wasn't a tradesman. So when it come to come home, this one officer, who was also one of those sort of fellas, was a Victorian officer, and he just said to me, he said, you're not going home, you and I are going to stay. See, and my wife was going to divorce me because I should have been one of the first one home, and I was one of the last, very much last, because I didn't get home for a couple more years. Yeah. I got nothing out of it. I never was promoted for it because on my what do you call it? When you first enlisted, all that, see, I was nobody, see, because I didn't tell them I could do this and do that and do this and do this, see. But that was the story of my life. Whatever I did, I outsmarted myself. How about that?